It's just a company I started in 2008, literally out of a bakery because free Diet Coke refills and free unlimited Wi-Fi kind of thing. It was a kind of a one-man show. It's today the world's leading provider of PPC management software, managing $1 billion of ad spend for over 10,000 customers worldwide.
Do you want to impact the world and still turn a profit? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Growth Everywhere. This is the show where you'll find real conversations with real entrepreneurs. They'll share everything from their biggest struggle to the exact strategies they use on a daily basis. So if you're ready for a value-packed interview, listen on. Here's your host, Eric Sue.
Before we jump into today's interview, if you guys could leave a review and a rating and also subscribe as well, that would be a huge help to the podcast. So if you actually enjoy the content and you'd like to hear more of it, please support us by leaving us a review and subscribe to the podcast as well. Thanks so much. All right, everybody. Today we have Larry Kim, who is the founder of WordStream, which is the world's biggest PPC management software company. Larry is also a top marketing influencer who I had the pleasure of actually meeting in person the first time at the Growth Hackers Conference in downtown LA. Larry, how's it going?
Going great. How are you, Eric? Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Larry, you've just got a wealth of knowledge, so I want to make sure that we can get as much as possible in this podcast. So first off, why don't you tell us a little bit about WordStream and what the company is all about?
Sure. It's just a company I started in 2008, literally out of a bakery because free Diet Coke refills and free unlimited Wi-Fi kind of thing. It was a kind of a one-man show doing internet marketing consulting. It's today the world's leading provider of PPC management software, managing $1 billion of ad spend for over 10,000 customers worldwide. So it's about 2% of Google's total advertising revenue is managed by this company that employs over 200 people today.
Wow, that's crazy. And so, what's your story? How did you even get into marketing in the first place?
Oh, sure. It was just I've kind of, like a lot of people, I just fell into it. It's not like any of us internet marketers have been around for more than like 10, 15 years because this stuff is all new, you know what I mean? So we're all converts to this space from somewhere. My background's in software engineering, and so a friend just asked me to help her out on some search campaigns, and so I did it, and the results were remarkable, and I just got hooked, and I was like, okay, I gotta quit my job and do something in this space. Initially, a consulting work, but later a software development and a product company that's WordStream today. Great,
got it. And so with WordStream, my understanding was, and I've played around with the tool in the past. It's focused on Google in the past, and now I'm understanding that there are some Facebook ads tools as well.
Yeah, that's how all these platforms start off, is supporting one thing well, and in our case it was Google AdWords, but we've gone a lot deeper into doing things like Facebook ads, Bing ads, and then all these other bells and whistles like call tracking and landing page hosting and reporting, et cetera, et cetera.
Got it. Now, the software itself, let's say I'm looking to, let's say I'm a mom and pop shop, maybe I am like a pizza shop or something like that, and I want to use WordStream. How does WordStream help? Because I know you have a couple of tools that help give some insight initially before they even decide to invest in it.
Yeah, sure. So basically the target market is for people who aren't full-time marketers, like business owners, that kind of stuff. There's millions and millions of advertisers, like 4 million online advertisers, and most of them are just 95% of them are just these little small businesses spending a few dollars a month, and don't know as much about PPC as you do, and so this is kind of like a TurboTax thing for search marketing and social marketing. It just kind of does the work for you, as opposed to you having to figure out what to do.
Got it. And so, how does pricing work? How do you guys make money?
It's just you still own your Facebook account and your Google accounts, but the software is on average, it varies by your spend, but on average it's around $299 to $400 or maybe $500 a month, and that's a lot cheaper than hiring like a dedicated search marketing consultant or hiring an in-house person to do this kind of work for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's cheap. Cool. Great. So, you mentioned, you guys manage 2% of Google's spend overall, which is huge. Now, what other numbers can you share on the business? I know you said 200 employees too, but how do revenues look today, or how many customers do you guys have?
Well, it's over 10,000 users of the product. We also offer free tools, free online marketing tools like the AdWords Grader and the free keyword research suite. Those have been used by millions of marketers worldwide over the last decade, I do a lot of blogging and this kind of stuff, and my content on PPC marketing and other related topics get millions of views every month.
Yeah, I actually want to talk about that because I think we're going to dive into a lot of the gold that you shared at the Growth Hackers conference. So, you're everywhere, right? And usually in the marketing world, there's only a couple people that are everywhere. I actually see you everywhere. So, what is your strategy? I mean, what are you doing? Can you tell people?
I guess. Is there a way to narrow this down a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So let's say, okay, when I'm reading marketing stuff, right? I always, I open my Feedly. There's always something from Larry Kim, right? Whether it's on, some popular, search engine blogs or whatever it is exactly. Your blog posts are out there, or I see some kind of interview that you're doing. So it seems like you're perpetually top of mind, which is what a lot of marketers want to do. How do you go about doing that?
It's a lot of work. You have to have a commitment to originating content. A lot of the ideas for the research that I publish is because I'm still a practitioner. I still regularly manage like Facebook accounts and Google AdWords accounts and do a lot of blogging and this kind of stuff and link building. So like as a result of having still being pretty in the weeds on a lot of this stuff, as well as my background on computer programming, I'm able to just do data analysis and publish interesting studies. Every week, it's. I think the mistake people make is they kind of they delegate this stuff. Like maybe they'll just start curating other people's content. Like you'll come up with like a listicle of like I don't know 10 tips from different people. Like that kind of like content curation as opposed to origination. And that's really been the key here. That if you can actually come up with new ideas and new strategies, not rather than just kind of parroting stuff, that's really I've noticed you get a lot more mileage out of that.
Got it. Yeah, and some people are probably thinking, the conventional entrepreneurial wisdom is that eventually you shouldn't be creating the content on your own. You shouldn't be practicing the stuff. You should be delegating it out. You're actually doing it. So how do you find a time to actually continue to learn and get better at the stuff? I'm sure you have to have some kind of like sequence or like time blocked out, right?
Yeah, it's like 2-3 hours a day. But basically, it's true that most C-level execs don't spend time mucking around in Facebook accounts and Twitter accounts and Google Analytics or whatever. But it depends on the type of business here. So like in the case of my businesses, the online marketing is actually like the raison d'etre. Like the it's so strategic and so important for the survival of the business that it actually does make sense for a C-level person to be doing that, because it's of paramount importance. You see what I'm saying? It might not be the same for like, I don't know, like Subway sandwiches or something like this. Probably the CMO is not, having to originate new strategies for PPC marketing or whatever, or for eating sandwiches. But that's just the kind of the nature for this particular niche that we're in.
Got it. Yeah. And the thing is, a lot of people are thinking, I do this content marketing stuff. We publish blog posts and things like that. You talked about your content promotion strategy at Growth Hackers conference, and it's very specific. So, can you share kind of what you're doing around that so people can maybe get like a template to work off of?
Sure. It's a little bit of a kind of unusual strategy, but I can tell you what I do. Basically, the first thing I want to express is that there's this fundamental lack of understanding of what constitutes quality content. Like you ask all these experts, what's the secret to success in content marketing, and they just say these dumb platitudes like create quality content. You know what I mean? And the problem with that is that it's just so. It's so ridiculous because half of people define quote unquote quality content as content that they helped produce because they worked on it, so it must be quality. And the other half of people that I talk to, they describe quality content as based on having certain attributes, 3,000 words, long form, short form, multimedia content, video content, infographics, as if you could just check the boxes on 10 attributes, and then suddenly that becomes quality. And so my first point today is just merely to say, Eric, I think we should be defining quality as in terms of the outcomes, the results that the content generated. If it did what it was intended to do, generate a crap ton of links, or if it converts like crazy, or got shared millions of times on social media, or whatever the intent for the content that you're producing, we have to be honest with ourselves and figure out whether or not we hit our goals or not. Otherwise, these notions of quote unquote quality content are nonsense. Just as an analogy, it's kind of like that movie Moneyball, where people were trying to pick players based on their girlfriend looks, or their I don't know, the shape of their jaw, or those just like how all these dumb content marketing metrics they're just misleading. The thing that you need to care about is the actual results, like RBIs or on base percentages, those types of things. And I'm saying in terms of content, the quality should be defined on the outcomes, how many conversions did it generate, how many links did it generate, etc., as opposed to just checking the box off of certain characteristics. Any questions on that, first of all?
Yeah. So are you saying you might go into Google Analytics and look at the conversion rate for it, or are you looking at other things like engagement rate? What numbers are you looking at to define that?
All right. So if you're with me and you're saying we should define quality based on numbers of outcomes, rather than just sticking your finger in the air and just coming up with random crap. If you're with me, the next point I would make is twofold. One is that 99.7% of the content that you produce goes nowhere, and basically. I'll just give you an example. Last year I wrote 300 pieces. Only 6 or 7 of them actually went crazy viral, getting millions of views, and the remaining, 98% or whatever of those pieces, kind of went nowhere. All right. So what I wanted to do was just kind of analyze the top 2 or 3% of those pieces, the ones that went crazy viral, and really did accomplish their objectives. And the one thing that they had in common was unusually high user engagement rates. So user engagement rates are things like click-through rates, or time on site. Did the people actually consume the content and engage with it in an enthusiastic way, or did they just ignore it completely and or bounce off the page type of thing? So if you're still with me here, the reason why I believe that those two metrics, like this notion of engagement rates, like click-through rates and conversion rates, and why this is so critical for content marketing, is because they are now, today more than ever. So this is different. This wasn't the case even like a year and a half ago. Today more than ever, these metrics are being used by the algorithms of the social and search platforms. So like Facebook or newsfeed, or Facebook ads, Google search, organic, or Google search ads. They're those algorithms which determine whether or not your content is actually visible or invisible. Okay. They are increasingly being tuned based on the engagement rates of the content that you're sharing or that you're publishing. You follow what I'm saying? So So meaning, if the reason why these 6 or 7 pieces that went bonkers last year did well was because they had such high click-through rates and such high stick rates. Okay, and then Google notices this, and so it ranks it like very, very prominently. Like this is a new change to the search algorithms, and similarly, the Facebook algorithms, it notices that these 6 pieces, like they have unusually high share rates and comments and engagement rates, and so it just gets shown to more and more people as a reward. And so it wasn't always that way. Like these, like Facebook used to be a little bit more democratic, where like, every time you posted something, like you'd have a shot at getting like a small number of clicks and views. But now it's like winner take all. It's like only like these really, really, really unusually high engagement articles, do really well. So stuff that has like, 7, 8, 9, 10% engagement rates, those are the things that are going to actually, be spread across the network. Whereas if you're just publishing a bunch of donkeys, like 1 or 2% engagement rates, those things tend to just die. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. And I know at the conference, I think you mentioned you'll allocate a small budget for each of these, and then you're going to look at the numbers and decide if you want to put more money, right? Is that what you do?
So if you're with me, that the notion of content marketing has kind of shifted from being like where you get points for just showing up, like just publish once or twice a week and keep doing that forever, versus now it's like winner take all. It's like one post out of 100 will get all the views. You see what I'm saying? So if that's the shift, you actually have to change your strategy, and the way that you do it, it's kind of like a betting strategy in poker. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to just bet the same amount for every single hand. Like if you get dealt kind of a royal flush or a full house, some kind of unbeatable or very, very strong hand, you're not going to want to just play the betting strategy the same way as if you had like off suited low digit cards. You know what I mean? Like you're going to want to vary the betting strategy to extract the most you can from the winners that you have, and conversely, you want to throw away the donkey hands as fast as possible. Like it's just a waste of money and time. And so what I do here is when I do produce content, I audition it. I'll spend $20 or $50 promoting it on Facebook or Twitter just to see how it does. Is it like a 1% engagement rate, or is it like a 20% engagement rate? You know what I mean? If it's like a 1 or 2 or 3%, just it's like folding. You just got to fold these crappy poker hands. You know what I mean? Just no amount of money is going to make this into a great winning hand. You know what I mean? Like so you got to dump the donkeys, and then when you do come across these unusual stories, everyone has them in your portfolio of content that you produce, Eric. I'm sure there's 1 or 2 that's gone crazy. When you do come across one of those outliers, I call them unicorns. What you need to do is you got to go all in on these unicorns and do something called making unicorn babies. But any questions about this? Yeah.
So I mean, when you're starting with $20 to $50 or so, but when you decide to make a unicorn baby, when you go all in, how much do you crank it up to?
Listen, I mean, first of all, when you have a unicorn, and I'm not, and the problem here is like, so by the way, if you don't know me, I call these like remarkable pieces of content unicorns, because they're not just a little bit better, they're like 5 times better than average. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not like just like a 2% click-through rate, it's like a 15% click-through rate or something like this. So the first thing is when you have one of these unicorns, you really have to go all in and sound what I call the unicorn alert. So what that just means is you have to kind of drop all the other marketing projects that you have going on, and direct all the time and attention towards squeezing and extracting the most possible value out of this piece of content or this idea that you have. If something has a very, very high engagement rate, that means that it's resonating with people. It's sticking. Okay, so you need it stands to reason that if it was like a blog post or something like that, that same idea ought to do well in like a video content, or like in an infographic, or in a conference presentation, or in a webinar, or in an email blast. You see what I'm saying? Like a catchy idea tends to be catchy like across social media. Like there's just something timely or catchy about it. You know what I mean? So the first thing you need to do is sound the unicorn alert and go nuts. Just kind of replicating this idea across as many channels as you can. The second thing, one of the channels that you also need to do is actually paid advertising. So, like I was saying, all those algorithms of paid search and paid social are now leveraging engagement metrics more than ever to determine cost per click and impression share. Okay, and so it stands to reason, like if you're promoting something that has like a promoted ad for something that has like a 10% click-through rate, your cost per click is going to be like 2 or 3 cents. You know what I mean? So like as opposed to like if you're pushing garbage, if you're sponsoring content, if the sponsored content that you're pushing is like 0.5% engagement rate, then you're going to be spending $3, $4, $5 a click. So basically what I'm telling you is that we have all these crazy concepts in marketing, like the monthly advertising budget. Maybe it's like $10,000 a month. Okay, that is so dumb. It's like what that says is like, oh, we have $1,000 a month or $10,000 a month to spend, and we have got 10 posts this month. Let's equally divide the budget. $1,000 for every post. But that's so stupid because 9 out of those 10 are going to go nowhere, and so you're just pissing away that $9,000. Well, it's like going all in on like off-suited like 4 and 9 or something. You know what I mean? It's like you did what? What you should have done is just folded them and spent little or nothing at all on those donkey pieces, and just like kind of conserve the budget, conserve the bandwidth, and then when you do have like the great idea, pieces of the great hand, whatever you want to call it, you go all in on this and just spend the entire monthly budget. In fact, on that one piece, in fact, there should be rollover. Like this notion of like use it or lose it is crazy. Like you should not spend anything in January, February, March, April, May if you haven't found the unicorn yet. You should just keep rolling over that budget, and when you find the thing that's like doing great, you go all in, retroactively, like take all the year's budget, like even next month's budget, and put it into this thing. You see what I'm saying? Because it's like it's all about maximizing the value for because you have something so rare and remarkable here.
Yeah, I love it. And I think, I don't want to get too granular into this, but some people are probably wondering, well, if you're promoting posts, is it only on your own stuff? But, Larry Kim, write on so many different things, right? So is it just anything that you're putting out there that you're testing?
Yeah, I think the channel does not matter so much as the idea does. Okay, so like if you have a catchy idea, I'll just give you a stupid idea. It's like, oh, this video of this girl will make you cry and question the meaning of life. Like those little those dopey things that go viral. Like if you have something that's so amazing and so engaging, it'll probably do well in a guest post, and it'll probably do well in an email blast. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, it's not necessary to test out the same idea across different channels. You can test it once, like the idea, test it out, promote it once on any channel, whether it's your blog, one of your, contributed article sites or whatever. You just audition the idea and see how it does. But if it does remarkably well, as in 3 or 4 or 5 times better than average for that channel, then you should sound that unicorn alert and transplant that idea across all of your different channels, your different outlets. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, love it. I love the analogy. This is basically why content promotion is like poker. That would be a good title. But anyway.
Or blackjack. It's like there's certain hands that you're supposed to you're supposed to double down to maximize your bet, because there's a much higher probability of winning. If you're 11 versus a dealer's 6. You double on that, because there's a very strong possibility that you'll win that hand. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, actually, blackjack's a better analogy because you're forced. Because poker you can fold, right? Blackjack, your bet's already out there. Like you're kind of, you decide what you want to do there.
But in poker, it's like what I'm saying is you wouldn't. The analogy for poker is that you wouldn't play your hands the same. You wouldn't bet the same way. You would vary the bet. Now it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to put more in or less in, but you would vary your betting in order to extract more value out of these unbeatable hands.
Right. Cool. So before we move on from this part, around people are probably wondering, well, Larry, this all sounds good. What about targeting? Do I boost a post? Do I target something else? What do we do there?
So basically, targeting matters. Obviously, like usually what I find is that if you have a pretty good idea, like I don't know. I wrote a post once about like meet Google's new CEO, surprise CEO, Sundar Pichai or whatever his name is. I wrote this post and I promoted it, and it got like I think it was like a 10% engagement rate because it was like a pretty cool topic. But then when I changed the targeting to only target people who use the hashtag alphabet, the engagement rate went from 10% to 30%. You see what I'm saying? So you're taking kind of like this kind of upper middle class donkey, like it's not terrible, but not like the greatest thing in the world. But then by just layering in some very, very granular targeting, you triple the engagement rates, and then suddenly you have a unicorn on your hands. The targeting, it's just you think about who the target audience is for the content that you produce, and have that in mind when you actually promote it. The flip side of this is like the worst thing you can do is just producing content that you think will resonate with like everybody, all of your followers, because like everybody isn't a target market. That's the opposite of being targeted. That's like untargeted. You know what I mean? So the stuff that's actually doing really well right now is I'll give you an example, and I don't mean to be political or anything, but like fake news actually does remarkably well in paid in these algorithms, because there's a really defined set of people who would go for this consuming this fake news. Like it's just whether it's like on the left or the right, it's like it's a specific enough topic that you can promote to, like, I don't know, fans of Hillary Clinton or fans of Donald Trump, like that, that they're going to eat this stuff up, and even better, you can exclude people who like, you can exclude the other side. You know what I mean? To just keep getting those engagement rates higher and higher. So basically, the key here is that when you're thinking about the content that you're producing, ideally you have also some kind of a target market in mind in terms of what are the addressable interests, behaviors, and demographics that you can include or exclude in order to cast a very, very narrow net and maximize the engagement rates within that net that you're casting.
Love it. Great. And I know we can nerd out on this all day. I mentioned on the panel that, Larry is a machine gun of knowledge, but just one more thing what's one more thing that you can share that's working in terms of, customer acquisition today?
So I think what I've been saying so far, Eric, is that the key to killing it in social media, clicks and shares and social media ads and paid and organic search. Like, these are like kind of the major channels that drive traffic to your site. You know what I mean? The key to killing these things is unusually high engagement rates. And so the killer hack to increase those engagement rates, like click-through rates, is to have a brand that people have heard of before. So believe it or not, people don't just randomly click on things in the search results or randomly click on ads. They have a tendency, like a 2 or 3 to 1 tendency, to click on the things that they've heard of before, as opposed to the things that they haven't heard of before. So if to the extent that you can kind of bias list people before they start, searching for stuff or seeing your stuff in the news feed. Like if you can kind of get ahead of them, so basically what I'm talking about here is just like broadcast advertising, like brand advertising, believe it or not. If you can get your brand in front of these people before they search for it, when they do search for you for the stuff that you're selling, they'll be like, oh, I've heard of those guys. You know what I mean? So that makes them like 2 or 3 times more likely to click on your listing than other listings. And then Google will notice that you have like this unusually high click-through rate, and you'll be rewarded with even more visibility. You see what I'm saying? So that it's kind of like this. The hack here is actually, it's kind of going back to like how marketing used to be, which was to just build a brand that people have heard of and are familiar with.
Great. And in this context, I think you're talking about people perhaps seeing your stuff, and I think you've written a lot of stuff around getting people to your site first, maybe via Facebook. Clicks are cheap, and then maybe using RLSA.
Oh yeah. So that's kind of like a 1-2 combo punch kind of thing. One of the challenges with search advertising right now is that these costs are enormous. It's like $5, $10, $20 a click. It's like if you only have a 2% conversion rate on these clicks, it's going to be very difficult to build a case for this to be like long-term sustainable. You know what I mean? And so just building on what I just said, people are not only 2 or 3 times more likely to click on your stuff if they heard of you, they're also 2 or 3 times more likely to buy if they've heard of you before. You know what I mean? So meaning like it's the biggest conversion rate hack here isn't tweaking your stupid landing page to have bigger buy buttons. Okay, it's actually to get people familiar and comfortable with buying from your brand in the first place by exposing them to brand advertising that kind of in a memorable way describes what it is you are all about and why what your value is. You see what I'm saying? So basically, what RLSA does. Remarketing lists for search ads. It's a way of doing remarketing on search advertising in AdWords. Bing also has something similar. It's called search remarketing. But it's like, say you're trying to sell office supplies or whatever. You can target people, not everybody in the world who's searching for office supplies, but you can target the people who have recently visited your site, like in the last 30 or 90 days. And those are the types of people who are actually, it's kind of like an electromagnet finding the needle in the haystack. It's a way of finding the people who are searching for the keywords that you're interested, who are 2 to 3 times more likely to convert. So it's kind of a really great hack to 10x your advertising efforts.
Great, awesome. So I have to work towards wrapping up here, and I know I mentioned earlier we can go all day on this, but what's one new tool that you've added in the last year that's added a lot of value, like Evernote?
The most important tool that you have to use is something called Facebook Audience Manager. And I know a lot of marketers use something called Google Keyword Tool to get kind of like, the volumes of the people, of like how many times this word has been searched on. But an even more valuable tool is Facebook's Audience Manager. It's in Facebook ads. But basically what you can do is you can type in things like, how many people have the job title CMO, or how many people, are between certain ages. Like it's basically a way to really figure out like who the target market is and how big it is, so that you can inform your marketing decisions and your campaigns based on actual demographic data. It's like a survey, a user survey of all the people on Facebook that you can use to like perfectly figure out what you should be targeting and to who, and this has never been available before.
Yeah, not many people talk about that, but that's good. And what's one must-read book you'd recommend to everyone?
You know what? I don't read books, so I'm going to pass.
That's fair. How about podcast or maybe a publication?
You know what? Okay. You know what? Sean Ellis, great guy. He just wrote a growth hacking book. I haven't read it yet, but I'm sure it's great because he does great stuff.
Cool, great. That's fair enough. The book is called Hacking Growth. You guys can pick it up. And Larry, this has been awesome. There's so much more to learn from you. What's the best way for people to find you online?
Just like Twitter or LinkedIn. Just connect with me there. Shoot me a note. I usually check those like periodically. Just don't DM me on Twitter. My DM box is just a complete cesspool of dumping ground crap. It's impossible to like. They need a spam filter on that thing, really. But yeah, Twitter or LinkedIn is pretty great.
Incredible, man. Larry, thanks so much for doing this.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Growth Everywhere. If you loved what you heard, be sure to head back to growtheverywhere.com for today's show notes and a ton of additional resources. But before you go, hit the subscribe button to avoid missing out on next week's value-packed interview. Enjoy the rest of your week, and remember to take action and continue growing.